Hello class. Microsoft Access is a database that's designed for small user groups. This picture here shows a diagram of about 6 users using Microsoft Access. They're sharing the same database. The database file has been placed on a LAN server so that everybody can access it. With Access, we can expect 10 to 20 users to be the limit on how many people can access a database concurrently. And that's because the database has a lot of overhead and resources associated with user activity, so we can see a degrading performance. So oftentimes applications will be set up using Microsoft Access when the company is small or the application is small, and as things grow, requirements will change, requiring an update to the application. It's quite common to go a conversion from Microsoft Access to SQL Server. And SQL Server is a high-end database that can support many thousands of users simultaneously. So we see a lot of activity there. We went to our 3-tier implementation model so that it would be easy for us to switch the database backend that we were using, or so that it would be easy for us to switch the user experience front end that we were utilizing. Let's get started converting to SQL Server on the back end. First of all, we need to access SQL Server, or get to it, not use it like access. Sorry, I know that term gets in the way. So in your course setup information, there is a page that says Set up SQL Server Access. And I apologize that I've had to change that since the beginning of the class, so it might be different than it was when you looked at it. One thing that's the same is this download link. You need to download and install Microsoft SQL Management Studio. The Management Studio will let you connect to your database server and add tables and perform other types of maintenance that are necessary to the database server. We also have some information here about the connection string that we'll use when we're connecting from Visual Studio. I'd like to connect using the SQL Server Management Studio. I've already downloaded and installed that software. So before I open it, I'm going to copy this server name. This is really an endpoint name on our Amazon server. And I'm going to go to my SQL Management Studio. And put in that server name. I already have it there, but I'll paste it. Now, your login name is your OTC username, and your password is either your OTC username or your number part. So if you're an OTC employee, it would be your OTC username. If you only have a student account, it would be the number part. I'm going to connect. And there's an update. That's okay. When I connect to the database server, I'm going to see this Object Explorer. If you expand your databases, you should see your database. I'm going to go ahead and expand my database. Each of us have a pre-allocated database already set up for us, so we'll be creating tables. We won't ever actually create a database. It's only one command, so it's not too hard, but we'll be using these pre-existing databases. Now, when I expand my database, notice that I have database diagrams. I don't have anything there, so I'm going to say no, not right now. And then on my tables, I don't really have any tables of mine. I have some links here for some system tables, but I want to create my member table. So I'm going to right click on table and choose table. Our new table GUI will display. Now we can create database tables using commands or DDL syntax also. You learn how to do that in the CIS151 Database Administration course. For this course, we're going to use the GUI, the Graphical User Interface, to create our table. We want our column that was ID, and we said that our ID column was a string. Well, for SQL Server, if you look, we have all sorts of data types, but there's nothing that's just like string. So what I'm going to choose is this varchar 50, and that just means that I can have a variable number of characters in this ID column up to 50. And because it's a variable, SQL Server will not store the unused space. So if we only have a 2-digit ID, only 2 digits will be saved. So we can save a lot of room in our database. Now we're going to have our first name column, and I'll make it the same, varchar 50. I want my last name and phone number. Snuck up on me. Now this table looks good, but I need a primary key. So I'm going to make this ID field my primary key. And a primary key is a unique key that we could use to identify our record. Now, when we're looking at this information, if we decided that we wanted the database to generate a unique ID for us automatically as new rows were inserted, we could do that with SQL Server, just like we could with Access. We would find this identity specification area, and we would change it to say, yes, it is an identity. Note that we can't do that because we said this was a character type column. We would have to create a numeric data type column to be able to make it an identity column where SQL Server would generate the ID numbers for us. It is important to know that that's available. So this looks good for our database. We just had these 4 columns. Sorry, I mean our table. So I'm going to save this. It is my member table. And when I look over here in my database, I don't see it. So I'm going to click refresh. And now I see that my member table is over here in the tables that I own. Notice that my member table has this DBO dot prefix. DBO just stands for database owner in our system. So we could have this same table existing in all of our different databases. That's okay because they'll be prefixed by this database owner property. Now my table is created. If I want to expand it, I could look at the columns again, the key fields, all sorts of different information. I need to add some test data, so I'm going to right click and say that I want to edit the top 200 rows. Now I love typing test data, but I'm going to open our Access database and see if I can copy and paste the data from there. Look at my member table. I'm going to try to copy all of these. Oh, stop. It's being mean. And then I'm going to try to paste them. I want to be over here where I have the whole row selected, and then I can paste. And apologize in advance before it dings at you. Oh, no dinging. Good job, SQL Server Management Studio. All right, so now we have some data in our table. So let's try an SQL select statement. I'm going to close these, and I want to create a new query. We saw Access create the query, select star from member table, Then we wanted to order by last name, ascending, and first name, ascending. So let's run that, execute it, and down in the bottom half of the screen we see our result set. Looks pretty good, except I might have a heading here in there twice, so I might need to fix that. That's a weird row. So it looks pretty good. Let's go back to that edit top 200. And I'm going to delete this one. Yep. Now I'm going to go back to my query tab, execute that query again, and we should see a much better table without an extra heading in there. Looks good. So we've got our order by last name, first name. Looks like those are mixed, doesn't it? Let's fix that. I want to go back to our table, and I want to go into design mode again. And let's change these column names. I will make the last name into the first name. Notice I renamed the first name first so that it wouldn't be a duplicate. And then I will set that column as last name. I'm going to save those changes to our table. Not that way. Looks like it saved it. And then I'm going to run the query again. See if our last names and first names look correct. There we go, that looks better. Last name, first name, everything is in place as it should be. Okay, so we accessed our SQL server using the Management Studio, and we found our individual database and created a new table, our member table. So we created the table the same columns as what we created in Access so that we could convert our application over to use SQL Server. So now we're ready to do that. Thank you.